All right, let's bring them back. Our powerhouse panel, former special assistant to President Trump, commentary editor at the Washington Times and Newsmax contributor Kelly Sadler, best-selling author and political analyst Mark Halperin, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member and radio host Christopher Arps. Okay, folks, it's a big week, all right? The House is coming back. Big week on Capitol Hill. We've been talking so much about foreign policy. We can't forget about the fact that lawmakers are about to vote on one of the biggest spending bills in a generation, $3.5 trillion, as well as potentially this federal takeover of elections, and it's a very, very big week. Mark, handicap this for us. Nancy Pelosi is bringing the House back to vote on this. There is an international crisis that is going on. There's inflation. There's the border. What do you see happening here? Do you think that she gets the votes, or do you think that she could see some moderates defect enough to try and stall this massive welfare expansion?
Well, you said they're about to vote, Tom. They may not, as your other question suggested. You know, people say Washington's so predictable. You always know what's going to happen. It's all just a game. This is a staring contest whose outcome is not known. I talked to a lot of people about it, and I would say right now, Speaker Pelosi, who's not used to losing, could be on the precipice of losing this fight. Not clear what happens if she loses, but if you care about your tax dollars, if you care about the budget, if you care about the Biden agenda, it's going to be a big couple days to watch here to see if Nancy Pelosi can solve this, because those 9 moderates so far not backing down.
Wow. I mean, and it is very unusual, as you point out, for Pelosi to have kind of a mini revolt. And a lot of people don't think there are any moderates left in the Democratic Party. But there are a lot of vulnerable Democrats, Kelly, and they are starting to push back. This bill, $3.5 trillion, would be the largest expansion of government in more than a generation. I've been calling it sort of basic income. It's part of that socialist agenda. What do you think happens this week?
Well, you know, the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the Biden White House has been ruling as though they've got a supermajority, right? And I think this week has been a reality check on them. There's only so much they can do with such slim majorities that they have. Nancy Pelosi can only afford to lose 3 votes. And you have these 9 moderate Democrats saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. The Senate has passed a bipartisan infrastructure bill, a $1 trillion bill. Let's take the win. Let's get that moving. And then let's move on to the reconciliation package. But then you've got the progressive flank, which AOC says she's got more than 90 members of, that will block the bipartisan bill if the reconciliation isn't passed in tandem. Nancy Pelosi has not backed down. Let's just be clear. She says that the White House also wants both of these bills to advance at the same time. So I think later today we'll see exactly how strong these 9 centrist Democrats are holding. They don't want to put their names to $3.5 trillion in new spending, especially if it gets over to the Senate. And Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin are like, whoa, 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 this is way too expensive. We got to whittle this bill down.
Yeah, and to be clear, there are tax increases in this.
Yep.
There is significant welfare expansion in this. There's a whole bunch of Green New Deal stuff in this. Chris, I want to turn to the other piece of legislation that is hanging over Washington this week. And Pelosi has said that she's going to bring it for a vote this week. And that's this so-called voting rights bill, which is essentially a federal takeover of elections. And it is targeted, they say, to counteract systemic racism in our voting laws. It would federalize and have federal approval over redistricting, election schedules, precinct planning, polling locations, ballots, and voter ID. Your thoughts on this, and especially, and I'm coming to you because the Democrats have said that this is really about trying to increase participation from communities of color. Your thoughts on this legislation?
Yeah, this H.R. 4 bill, which is on just the repackaged H.R. 1 bill, right, which is just basically a federal takeover of elections. It has ballot harvesting. It has no voter ID. Look, the Democrats are playing pure politics on this. They know that this is not going to pass the Senate, that it's not going to get over the filibuster. But I think they're doing this for politics to try to paint the Republicans as against voting rights and against minorities. I also think they're doing this because they're having a lot of trouble with the infrastructure bill. They only have one major piece of legislation that they've passed. And so I think this is one of the reasons that they are bringing this up to try to highlight that.
Mark, just quickly to you, when you're taking a look at the numbers on the congressional ballot, the generic congressional ballot, do you think that that is part of Nancy Pelosi's calculus? It wasn't when it came to impeachment. It wasn't when it came to Obamacare all those years ago. Do you feel that she is just going to stick to her guns, and she is going to make these pieces of legislation really the hallmark of her last year, what maybe her last year is her speakership?
Here's the big difference between this and Obamacare. The Democrats went into the Affordable Care Act fight knowing that it would probably hurt them politically, and it did. In this case, Nancy Pelosi believes, Chuck Schumer believes, I think the president believes, that if they pass this, they will be rewarded by the Democratic Party, by independents, because it will transform the country in a way they think the country wants. It's a big bet. It's a bet that most Republicans think is wrong. And we'll see if they can pass it. But they don't go into this trepidation. They go into this saying good politics, in their view, is good policy in this case, and vice versa.
If you call this good policy, I'd argue with that. All right, thank you, panel. We're going to see you at the top of the hour.